So we're here with Gillie Barlow, who's a good friend of mine, also a successful property investor and just a great person. So welcome to the show, Gillie.
Thank you very much, Sam. It's great to be here.
And right now you're doing some training with our guys and they're absolutely loving it. Why don't you just give us a little bit of background in a nutshell? What is it that you do in property and what's your background?
Okay, so I'm an identical twin. I came out of school at 16 with nothing to be proud of, and had grown up really believing I was rubbish at everything. But due to my faith at a young age, I had always believed that I was something, but I just had nothing to show for it. I ended up setting up a little business, and bizarrely enough, at a very young age, ended up flying to Africa, where I believed that I was moulded. You know, so much happened, so many experiences, animals related, people related, all sorts related. I learnt to fly, but all sorts of things went on that really, I think, made me a large part of who I am today.
That's incredible. And you talk a lot about your faith, you talk a lot about purpose, and I know you run a lot of charities and different stuff like that, which is absolutely fantastic. So we relate a lot on that level. Where does money and buying properties and all that, where does that fit in to that?
It's a very interesting question, that, because I think that when you go along your journey, it takes a while to discover who you are truly, but also discover what your gifts and purposes are. But I believe I know mine, and it's through my experiences and my reading and my learning and my faith that I've discovered what that is. I'm sure there's more to it than I'm about to say, but for me it's about building people up. So I don't know if you've known or heard of love languages. Many people have, many people haven't. Yeah. My top love language is words, and I can understand and relate to how that is, in that I've spent all my life really building people up and helping them to see that they're precious. But I didn't realise I was doing that. But the negative side of that is that you get crushed by words as well. So you have to learn in this world to not take it on the chin, but to actually try and work, to try and understand where the person's come from themselves that's made them say it. But words are really, really massive in this world. In actual fact, Samuel, I've just finished audioing my first book. And that book...
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that book was meant to be on property. I mentioned property once. What it is about understanding contentment. And that contentment needs to come first. Many, many people do it the wrong way around. So can I give you a picture?
Yes.
If I say, imagine a tyre rolling down a hill. Okay, but this time we're going to look at it as being a gold coin. Many people chase after it. It's on a hill, so it's quite difficult to catch it. And many catch it, but there's so much momentum there that it's exhausting hanging on to it. So they let go of it again. And then they catch it again, and then they let go of it again. And they're constantly chasing more and more. Other people grab hold of it, and with all their might, they hang on to it. But they don't know what living is all about. They never see their families. They never go away, because they're the businessman that's stressed out to the max and is just working all their lives to hold on to that money. Then there's the other people, of course, who never catch it and deem themselves hopeless. And it's very, very sad. And I think that what's happening is people assuming, have you ever heard someone say, if I could just get that house or just go on that holiday, it'll all be all right.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're making something in the future the reason for their happiness.
Yeah.
And what often happens, I don't know if you find this, is that they get there and the boundaries move.
Exactly.
And so how many people really truly know contentment? And I think the big thing for me is trying to help people understand what success is. Success is often just about money. But it's not about money. Money, believe you me, I understand, may have a part in it because of the environment, because of the place we live, our society. We do need money to live. But the point is, it isn't everything. And if I said to you, what do you think success is? What would you say, Samuel?
I would say success is having a good life. Success is having a goal and hitting it. Success is different for different people.
Right, I agree. I would say success is a good life. But where things are different for different people is your idea of a good life might not be my idea of a good life. but it is a good life. And I give this example. If you had a couple living in a tent, massively happy, nothing materialistic, they understand love, and then you've got the billionaire who's about to hang himself, who's successful?
Well, the billionaire's successful financially, but then he's not got balance. He's not successful in lots of other areas.
I see no success there at all if they've got to a point where they want to end their lives.
No. So tell me then, I totally agree with that. And sometimes the main thing is that the main thing stays the main thing. And people want money for a purpose to achieve an objective, but sometimes we forget about the objective in the first place and we just continually chase more money, more money, more money. But of course, like a currency, a number on a bank isn't actually going to make you happy, which is really true. So really good points there. What success have you had in property? Because I know you are a person of success. You do have money. So tell me a bit about that.
The property for me has been monumental. It's grown me significantly as a person, and because of the contentment, first of all, there's been an element of success. I have made mistakes and I've grown from them. Again, it's all about attitude. So for me, a large part of my success has come from light bulb moments where I suddenly realised it was all about me in terms of my mindset. Mindset is absolutely key. And due to my understanding of that and growing and learning more and more about it, I have managed to achieve goals that I've set. They've moved because they do when situations of life change and values change. But I've loved it. And I came from a place, Samuel, where I had no money, no ability to get a mortgage, and actually no support outside of the environment that I found myself in afterwards. And I therefore used a strategy called options. But people also get very confused when you talk about strategy. I might say to a person, what's your strategy? And they say options. And I said, well, no, that is a way of acquiring a property, but then what are you going to do with it? So I see very clear columns of strategy type. So acquiring a property, you have one lot of strategy. So it might be purchase, it might be options, it might be rent to rent, it might be delayed completion, it might be an instalment contract, and so on. Strategy in terms of what you're going to do with the project might be HMO, it might be flip, it might be serviced accommodation, it might be a number of different things. So I started acquiring the properties as options because in my view...
You chose that because you didn't have any money, right?
Absolutely. In my view, I had no other option.
And you were able to secure properties using option, using no money?
No money.
That's incredible. That's incredible. A lot of people think that sounds too good to be true, even though they're watching this right now. You started with no money, no support, no nothing, and then you acquired a bunch of properties with an option agreement. How did you do that?
Attitude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to come back to it, but attitude and mindset is a lot to do with it. I love options, and I believe that there are only two reasons people don't do options.
What are those?
One is they think they can't find them, so they don't.
Yeah.
And two is they find them, and everybody they speak to runs off to the hills because all the words that come out their mouths are wrong.
Yeah.
It's words, Samuel, it's words. If you come from a place that the other people are at, and you remember it's about them and their scenario, their situation, their motivation, their pain, if you go in wanting to help, and if you speak words that are about those people, for those people, rather than always for you, it doesn't matter whether you're speaking to the vendor, the agent, whether it's to do with a JV partner, or maybe even an investor if you want to put a little bit of money into it. You've got to come from where they're at.
That's so true. That's so true.
And words are massive.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I started with.
Yeah, I say at the crash course when we run it, I say you need to know the magic words, but then at the same time, it's also about where you're coming from. If you're coming from a position of, got to get the deal, then you're going to scare them away because of your attitude. Whereas if you come from the position, if you use the right words, and you come from the position of actually trying to help them, and what's best for this person, actually I think an option's best for them, and then you present it in a certain way, you're going to get the deal.
Yeah.
So incredible. And then what happened then? So how many properties did you do on a lease option agreement?
Not many, because I tend to go quite big. Okay. So I do love big properties. So my very first option was a 6-bedroomed HMO with a 1-bedroomed annex.
And you don't need many of those?
No, and because I then went on to sort of small hotel-y stroke guest houses, which sort of generate sort of between £20,000 and £30,000 a month. I don't need lots of them. I don't want lots of them, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And the first one I found of that size, I did as an option.
Do you believe that you can retire from one deal?
Of course, it depends what that deal is.
Yeah, but you can.
You
and
can.
you can do that deal with using none of your own money.
Yeah, 100%.
If you've got the right mindset.
Mindset is key.
What's the best deal that you've ever got?
Wow. Well, I would say the best deals I've got, which isn't what you asked me, would be my hotels. Yeah. Because I love that strategy.
When you say hotels, you're talking about ran as a serviced accommodation, right?
Yes.
So no staff.
Well, the first one still got a little bit of staff, but we're wheedling them out. The second one, none.
But the thing is, Gillie, you're going to scare people off when you say serviced accommodation and hotels, because people think that is so much work. I mean, people think single lets, easy, HMOs, a bit difficult, serviced accommodation, nightmare. But that's not the case, is it? It's
not the case. And again, it's mindset, but also it's truth.
Yeah.
Okay, there are many people out there that will convince you you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, and if you do it, they need to do it on your behalf. You can do it. It's all about systems. Now, I am not a systems person. I absolutely love the systems resulting in great results for serviced accommodation. They are so easy to use. And the thing is, I believe that they are more passive. I believe the service accommodations are properties that I've got are more passive than my HMOs. The only reason I continue to do a few HMOs is because I allow them to go out to other people as rent to rents. So all my HMOs, be they options or now purchased, I give to either charities or individuals from my meetings, and they take them as a 5-year rent to rent. So I have nothing to do with
That's really interesting. And because there's enough profit in the deal for more than one person to win.
Of course.
So you're saying, I just want a guaranteed rent, I'll pass it on, I'll let the next person make a few £100s a month and then be responsible. Which is really interesting, because I do that with some of my properties as well. And it's really funny because I took on a property actually quite recently, a 6-bed HMO, which I passed on to somebody like that. I passed that on as a rent to rent. I'd rather just have a guaranteed income, and I just thought it'd be better that way. But then I remember thinking, 10 years ago, I'd have loved to have been that person who's there. I know they're going to make about £600 a month profit, and they've invested very little money. So it's just win-win, and it's about finding where you're at right now in your life. And then working with people that it all comes down to win-win. It is,
but 10 years ago, you're absolutely right. But 10 years ago, Samuel, you were probably in a situation or a position where you wanted that income and you're willing to do an element of work for it.
Yes.
Now you're in a position where, due to your dynamic and your values, you'd probably not choose to do that work, but choose to do what makes you thrive and rock, and where you can be have passion.
Which is not managing HMOs.
Yeah. And so now you're able to have a journey which is conducive to what your calling is and what your purpose is, and allow the other person to make the money. When we start out, we do what we can, don't we?
Yeah.
And I was the same. I was looking after ex-prisoners in houses, but it wasn't conducive of my journey because I wasn't educated, or I didn't have degrees in looking after people and psychology and what have you, and I probably wasn't the best at it, but also it was taking up all my time. Now I give it to charities where vulnerable people can take those houses and call them home, but I can go and look for more properties and teach.
Make good money.
And make good money.
Also, question for you. Best deal, I know you said deals. Give me a case study of one of these service accommodation properties that you've purchased. I know you don't usually use your own money still.
No, I don't. I mean, in all the years that I've been doing property, I put the first amount, £38,000 into my first ever deal last year. So I just, get used to it, don't you? You get used to what you used to.
Why would you use your own money if you can use other people's money?
Well, if I told you that my minimum ROI on an HMO is 444%.
That's just ridiculous.
So why would I do it a different way?
Yeah.
So you want an example?
Yeah.
So my first large one was a rundown pub. The lady was about to be repossessed. It was on the market for $950,000 apparently, but when I found it was on for $875,000. I offered an option and they turned it down eventually. I then offered actually a cash purchase for much less, which they said yes to but reneged on. Yeah. It was over a bank holiday weekend and they'd accepted a an extra £3,000, believe it or not. However, I did understand because the agent I was using was charging far more and every penny counted.
Yeah.
Later on, they came back to me and they said, we're desperate, the buyer's pulled out. And I said, look, I can do this, but I've just spent the 600,000 that I offered you on another property, investors' money, of course. I can do it, but it's going to be for far less and it will still have to be an option. So we did it as an option for far less. I got it for 495,000 as an 8-month option. I allowed her to live in the property until...
Was that delayed completion? Or
no, it was an option.
So you had the option, not the obligation to buy?
Option, not the obligation. So I got planning permission to turn it into a guest house, full planning permission. And in in March, she moved out so we could gut the place.
Yeah.
This was October, so she had another 6 months in there. In June, we started, and by September the 1st, it was ready, and we did £250,000 refurb of investors' money.
Yeah.
Okay. 3 years later, I refinanced and pulled every penny out. I didn't put 1 cent into it.
And how much is that making you each month now?
It depends. It varies. So I generate...
Or per year, should we say?
I generate, well, it's £250,000 in revenue.
A year?
Per property.
And what about profit?
Profit, you're looking at probably 120.
Still though, that's a very, very good salary for one deal.
It is. So, I mean...
No, of your own money! And then 120 a year?
Not
you only
a
need
cent.
one of those. How do you manage to get investors to give you £250,000?
It was more than £250,000 because it cost 495 and we
Okay,
were getting
whatever
investor
it
money
is,
in.
how do you get
We
them?
were then getting £250,000 to do it, so it was 800,000. Well, on that particular option, stroke purchase in the end, it was a webinar and we got 16 people to give 50 grand. With 50 grand, no, they didn't need a charge on the property. And it, for the poor solicitor, it was a little bit of a headache. But, again, it's mindset.
So you did a webinar?
Webinar.
And then you just said to people, hey, if you're interested in doing a joint venture with me or interested in getting some guaranteed returns.
I didn't do the webinar on that event. My JV partner did, who I've now bought out.
Right.
The next one I did that was really big wasn't an option. It was done on a delayed completion.
Yeah.
So investor money, 76,500 in because it was, 76,500 because it was 760,500 purchase. And then what we did was we did a £170,000 renovation.
Yeah.
But managed to get the bank, and they'd never done this before, to agree to give us 75% of the new value having had the renovation done.
Incredible.
So we didn't have to refinance 6 months later. At that point, at 1.1 million, nearly pulling all the money out, certainly pulling half of the investor money out, which we weren't expecting to do. Not one single penny of my money. So it's all about being creative.
These deals are obviously incredible. I'm almost slightly envious of some of these deals, but hey, we're working on some exciting stuff too. What would you say to someone who's watching this, who's kind of just starting out? Maybe they don't own any houses yet, or maybe they just own a couple, and they're thinking, wow, like all this money and raising all this finance and service accommodation. What would you say are the best starting points, first few stepping stones to someone that's really just wanting to grab this with two hands and go for it?
Well, I'm a little bit different to other people, and I don't believe personally that you need to start very small. I wouldn't start with buy-to-lets because where's the exit strategy? HMOs is what rocks your boat. You've got to be able to find passion in it. This isn't just about money. You've got to enjoy it. You've got to have fun. And if you don't have fun, it'll be jolly hard when there are tough times, and there will be. I think that, if they want to do... I believe there's ways of doing things without risk. People might turn their noses up at that and say there's not, but there is. It's a question of how you structure it. If you're not putting any money into a deal and you've got somebody else paying the interest to the investor who's putting all the money in the deal, where's your risk?
Yeah.
So it's all about structure. It's about creativity. You need to make sure that you're listening to the right people.
Yeah.
A very good writer and speaker called Joyce Meyer wrote a book called Approval Addiction. And in it she says, make sure that you put people around you that do you good and not harm. You've got to do your due diligence in every area. You can take it and grab it with both hands, but you've got to make sure that you're doing what you enjoy. If you decide to do something that everybody else is doing, it will take you 6 months to work out you're not having fun.
Yeah.
So just be very careful and sure of what you want before you start.
That's incredible. So have good due diligence, get good people around you that can help you and support you, and also make sure that you risk assess what you're doing.
Absolutely.
On a property front, so now you've got, as I said, a large portfolio of properties, financially free. What are you wanting to do property-wise? What are your plans property-wise in the future?
Well, I keep saying that it's my last project because you know what? Some people want more and more and more. I don't actually need more, but I keep finding another project that I like to do. So right now I've just offered and had accepted an option on a piece of land where I'm building 2 eco houses right opposite my house actually. But my plan really is my favourite course that I'm running is an alpine course in the mountains, which runs from my chalet in the French Alps, where we do half-day skiing, half-day learning. In the summer, we do half-day of extreme sports like cascading down waterfalls, and then we come back and do half-day of learning. And I find that it's so wonderful to see the impact it has on people, to actually be sociable and living together like that, being scared on the slopes if you've not skied before. So you come back and go, I'm going to do anything now. Property's a doddle. But because it's so much about mindset. Yeah. And I've had people on those courses who have been doing property for 12 years, but in 4.5 days have monumental mindset shifts. I think it's 80% personal, isn't it? It is. And that's why you spend so much time inspiring people, helping them think about their purpose. I mean, how's it going today? You're doing some stuff with our guys today. How's that going? Well, I think they're liking it. I'm loving it. They're loving it. I'm absolutely loving it because my heart is to teach. Yeah. Many people are good speakers, but there's a very big difference between a speaker and a teacher. When people say that, oh, if you're doing so well in property, then why do you teach? I think that's very, very silly, really, because when you've got all the money you want and when you've got all the properties you want, then what are you going to do? Just sit on a beach and do nothing? It's each to his own. Yeah. And for me, let me just correct you one little bit. I haven't got all the money I want. I mean, it's not that it's not enough. It's just that circumstances change. But the point is, it's about I always say, we don't have to be in control, but we don't want to be controlled. And in a world of people, we've got to get that. There's a very big difference between those two things. And so I'm feeling that I'm perfectly in control, but I don't, because I'm not being controlled. But I don't mind if I don't always have everything that I need. Yeah. It's not about that. You know, we will. I have a very strong faith. So I believe I'll get everything I need because I'm being watched by a wonderful Father in heaven. In terms of my wanting, that's very, very different. But I want for very little because my absolute passion is to edify, build up and help people. Yeah. And so if I can do that through teaching, I don't mind if I have a paper bag over my head and I have a pseudonym. Yeah. It's been so good having you here so far. I know we've got people waiting, but I just wanted to ask you a question. Number one, what's been your biggest mistake and what's been the lesson from that? So if you can answer that first, that'd be great. So my biggest mistake was a few years ago, I was doing an option and I found a fantastic guest house in Wantage, and we'd agreed the option and it was all going ahead, and the solicitors were putting all the paperwork together, and I said the idea was we were turning it from a 7-bed guest house to an 11 because upstairs they had owners accommodation and all I had to do was put shower rooms in. So I had said, just very gently and without realising the implications, oh, I've got an LNPG account. You can use that because we'll get a greater discount. Yeah. So they used my LNPG account to get their bathrooms and what have you. Got them, pulled the plug because the contract hadn't been signed. Oh. And because it was in my name, I had to pay for them. That was 16 grand's worth of bathrooms that I never saw. Annoying. That's not good. So what did you learn? What I learned from it was I could loathe the woman for a few days. But actually, forgiveness is powerful. Yes. Unforgiveness eats you up. Oh, yeah. But also, you can either look at mistakes and feel hopeless. Yeah. Or you can learn from them. Yeah. And the blessing it's been for me in helping people not to make that mistake, but also to challenge myself to double what I lost in terms of revenue within the next year. Love it. Was the way that Gillie Barlow works. That's incredible. Okay, next question. Thank you for that. Biggest success
and lessons and inspiration from that to the listeners?
I think the biggest success for me has been understanding mindset.
Yeah.
I tell you that in my very first year of doing property, I did very little for 6 months. And I was so belligerent, I can't tell you. I'd go, but I did what I was told. But I didn't do it with the right attitude. And I had to change my mindset and make that decision in a split second to make the difference. And although that sounds like a potentially weak success, it was what made my success and the journey that followed.
I love that. Gillie, thank you so much for coming on the show. Let's go back in the main room, follow up with the students. High five, you're amazing. Thank you.
So are you.
Thank you so much for watching. If you benefited from that video, please do share it with your family and friends. For more videos like it, you can watch right here. And if you'd like to spend 2 days with me at the Property Investors Crash Course, watch this video, see what happens. But whatever you do, don't forget to subscribe right here, and I'll see you next time.